Yeah, that's about everything I want to say. It's time to get on to our fantastic speaker. Um, Berna is a dreamer, a curious learner, a maker, and a gamer, and a trainee teacher. A teacher trainer, sorry, she's not a trainee teacher, she's a teacher trainer. She's been teaching English since 2006 and spent the past 9 years in the IB PYP world. She's a proud, mistake-friendly educator. I love that. And she believes learning grows through trying, failing, and trying again. I love that too. She blends technology, play, purpose learning recognitions such as Microsoft Innovative Teacher Expert, Google Educator, and Apple Professional Learning Specialist. As a Google Schools advocate, she integrates the SDGs into curriculum. We love that. If you came to my talk earlier, we know we'll be focusing a lot on the Sustainable Development Goals here at Twinkl this year, and culture. Her interests include EdTech, sustainability, climate education, gamification, inquiry-based learning, storytelling, SEL, visible thinking, differentiation, and creative critical problem solving. You might think that's a big list, but I think that all of those things were represented in her workshop last year. So I've no doubt that they're true, and I've no doubt that you'll get a sense of all of those values from her workshop today. Berna, without hesitation, are you ready to go?
I am. Can you see my presentation?
Yep, yep, we can see. It looks perfect.
Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. And it's always amazing to hear you talking about Twinkl. And I do personally use Twinkl quite a lot as well. So thank you very much for creating such a space for everyone to share. So I'm Berna. Today we're going to be talking about words in action and voices for change. Oops, sorry. This is kind of like a short summary of what we will be talking about today. Mostly student development goals, taking action, of course, quite a lot of language learning, student agency, leadership skills, and curiosity, and making connections. I'm a very visual person, so these are some of the slides are actually for me to kind of start my thinking. So this is me, not going to talk about a lot, but I just want to say, as Samantha mentioned, I am working in an IB school, but I just want to remind that I am still an English teacher. So I'm not a homeroom teacher. My purpose and my goal is to actually teach English. That's just one reminder. And then this one at the bottom is my newly adopted cat, Alan. Just wanted to put him there because he's been with us for the past 7 weeks and we are getting used to living with him. And other than that, I think everything we do see and talk about here are totally adaptable. So these are my contexts. I'm teaching grade 4 right now. I did teach from preschool to K-12. So some of the examples that we will be talking about is actually not some, all of them are adaptable. So I like communication. I like creating that interaction. Today, you do know a little bit about me now, but here for the next 1 hour, who are we as a community? I'm going to be sharing the link of sorry, how do I share in the chat? If you can, okay, sorry. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. If you can go to Mentimeter, there is the code, or I've just put the link on chat, and let's see who we are as a community. Because I feel like it is very important to know and to feel safe to talk about everything we will be experiencing today. If someone can give me a thumbs up if the Menti is working. Did I give you the link?
It's a little slow on mobile for me, so I recommend opening it using your computer if you can.
Okay. By the way, I did send you the wrong link. The first one is my link. Now I sent you the right link. I'm so sorry. If you want, you can also, I'll quickly show the questions and we can even actually have a look at the questions from here. 47, 87. Let me write 45. Okay, there's only one person who actually write.
Hello there. I'm trying to pin the map that you sent, but I can't.
Okay. Let me actually write or tell the questions right now, maybe. And you can check. But I knew that this wouldn't work, but I still wanted to take the risk because creating connection is so important for me. So if you can write on the chat, if you can describe yourself with one adjective, a question word, and an action verb, that would be amazing. And also what comes to your mind when we say change maker. So we already have a few adjectives, question words, and action verbs as a community here. We are a big why. The owner of creative idea, create, thoughtful, calm, thinker, inspiring, wonder, diligent, runners, learning. And let me go on to this one. About change makers, thoughtful, wow, freedom, risk takers, innovative, happy, exciting, fun, change, revolutionary, and teach. Thank you very much for the ones who are writing on the chat. I will definitely, and you can actually even write them later on as well. So I'm switching the presentations. Yes. Perfect. Thank you very much. Linz, Austria. I have a friend working in Linz, Cindy. Okay. So, if you have around you, and I'm sure because we are working on sketchnoting, I want to start with today's intention, and I want actually you to set intention for yourself. This is a practice that I have been doing. Jessica Vance, when I actually got into her workshop a couple of years ago, this is how she always starts, and I really like it, and I actually embed it into my own teaching as well. So today, we're going to just pause and reflect on the next hour. My intentions are to engage in a curious mindset, to spark some ideas, to reimagine some things, and to be open to both and thinking instead of either or. So what are as you can see, you can write your intentions as a sentence, you can write your intentions as keywords or phrases. What intention will you set for yourself today? If you can write it on a post-it note in your notepad, wherever you want. This is just for you. If you want to share, of course, you can write it on the chat box as well. But I'm just going to give 1 minute to everyone to kind of think about their intentions. Thank you very much for the ones who have written on the chat or the ones who have written for themselves. And I hope we can actually go over your intentions or to get them all today. So I always share my resources at the end, and I always do not have enough time to give credits to these people. These are some of the books and some of the learning communities that I am a part of, and it has been, and of course, not just for this presentation, but in general for my teaching. So I just wanted to share them at first. So that if you want to take a screenshot, or if you want, if I'm sure you've already read many of them, but I just like collecting some resources while I'm listening. The big question that I had while I was actually preparing this presentation was, what happens when we stop leading for students and when we start leading with them? Because I do believe that every student is a leader, and we just need to stop leading for them and that start being with them. The biggest thing that happens is change, right? When we start leading with them, change happens. And language becomes meaningful, not mechanical for them. Students use English just not to express their ideas, or just to express their ideas, but not just for the answers. And I feel like language moves beyond worksheets into real communication, right? And vocab and structure stick because they are tied to a purpose. So learners produce more language than just consuming them. And I think also student voice happens, right, when we actually start leading with them, because student voice increases language output, and learners talk more and they write more and they ask better questions, which that's what I aim for the as a teacher, to be honest. Even quieter or emerging learners find their entry points through choice. And agency just lowers those effective filters, and their confidence automatically goes up. And of course, it kind of leads to language using being expanded. And agency happens, very similar to student voice. And belonging happens because language learning supports identity and belonging. Students see English as their tool, but not the teacher's tool, right? Because they feel like they're heard, they're valued, they're capable of making an impact. And as the most important one for me, and I think for any language learning, is mistakes are framed as part of the growth. So belonging just fills up risk-taking, and risk-taking fills up the language development. And again, just going from there, through risk-taking, it just transforms, improves across skills and contexts. So learners apply language skills across reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And language is constantly reused. It's adapted and refined across different tasks. So I think students don't just learn English, but they start using it flexibly. So today we're going to actually look at the student's change maker journey through two lenses, through the inquiry and the language lens. And for me, they're not too different, but they are actually blended lenses. So as you can see, inquiry is the whole context, and what I look as a language teacher is what language is being practiced, how does this support speaking and writing, and how do I scaffold this for different proficiency levels. So I see inquiry as my teaching tool. I think a change maker classroom just doesn't teach about change, but it embodies it. So we're going to talk a few examples just to see how or how we do it in our classes. And I want to start with the power of a provocation. I know that provocation has been very connected with the inquiry, but I think provocation can be about anything, especially language. And provocations are like creative learning experiences. It can be a question, it can be a visual that you start or through your lesson that you show. It can be a video. And I think provocations are really important because that's how you hook the students. That's how they're engaged in, and that's how they switch on wonders, and that's how they start connecting. Because I feel like learning a language is all about loving, and it's all about, because learning only happens when you're happy, right? Like with the not only happy, like provocation doesn't have to make students happy, by the way. It needs to actually even nudge them or make them feel a bit uncomfortable. But you just need to think about, in general, how you will turn that provocation or turn that provocation into your learning objective. So I'm going to give a few examples. As you can see, this is one example from our Sharing the Planet unit. If you see this question mark, it means that this is the inquiry, but I also tried to write explicitly what in our English curriculum we were focusing on. So as you can see, we want kids to understand the big central idea as they have responsibilities towards the environment when producing and consuming energy. So how we started this unit was, I actually, as you can see with the red tapes, kind of closed up the whole classroom. And have a look at the first picture. There are no lights. The second picture is just to show what it looks like. So there were no lights. So around the lights part, the switches, it's all banned. The sink is banned, and the classroom is banned. So they come in, they're already very curious, and they're already very like, what is happening? And I say nothing, literally. They just come in, they just try to come in first, and they look around. And as you can see, there are some big envelopes. So they immediately start looking at me and like, what are these? And like, I don't know. So they opened up these envelopes, and each envelope has a letter. So this, for example, is an example of your overflowing friend, Farah the faucet. We got the idea from, if you know the book, The Crayons Went on Strike. So all these areas went on strike, and they wrote letters to the students. And as you can see, so this whole lesson was just the provocation, and they started reading it. And the minute that they read the letters, they already started thinking about, okay, how can we make them work again? So the first lesson was all about them. And I didn't tell them, okay, take action or what, but they started brainstorming about how to make them work again. And then the next lessons, as you can see, all these highlighted parts, they are our language goals. And they highlighted the transition words, modal verbs, the persuasive language devices, like rhetorical questions. And we kind of dissected this letter. And at the end of this 8 weeks unit or 7 weeks unit, they will be producing a letter using these grammar topics and the reading skills. So as you can see, the provocation, like especially intentional provocations, can actually be a lead to your language learning. And throughout this unit, they have been exposed to many different topics to research about. And this is one of the students' letter, because as I said, the focus was writing a letter. So she chose to take action on testers because she was an animal rights advocate, and she researched about, because we didn't give them, okay, you have to take action on a certain thing. This is about having responsibilities towards the environment. So this child wanted to take action on animal rights and started writing to the dear testers. And you can even see your scared friend Cookie. So they start automatically copying. That is an exemplar. So they kind of starting with an exemplar, an exciting experience like that helps them to use their creativity and language skills over there as well. And another student over here actually wrote an email to our school saying that they want to change some things. And we also learned in this unit, because it was all about letter writing and, as I said, persuasive language skills, language devices. They wanted to go on a strike, because the whole experience started with a strike. And this is happening towards the week 4, week 5, by the way. So they learned how to take strike. So they knew that to be able to take a strike, they had to get permission from the government. And in our school, they got permission from their principals. And they also had to inform the press, because that's how you go on a strike. So they actually wrote to our HR. And again, they're using the English skills. They're using the language skills. So they also made some posters to use there. And also another skill was paraphrasing. So while they were researching, they took some notes. So as you can see, this was like they actually used, we used the provocation for a lead into the language goal, but at the same time, it automatically made them curious and engaged in the lesson or in the unit, let's say. Another student, because it's about responsibility towards the environment while producing and consuming, the other students actually noticed that we waste a lot of food and decided to, again, write to anchor teachers and all the school teachers and all the other staff, saying that this is what we noticed. And again, this she's still using the same language objectives, but taking action on wherever or whatever topic she wants. So with the students, and this was another provocation that we started measuring up the food waste, and one of the classes turned it into a game. So every week we looked at which classes wasting less, and we kind of appreciated them. So these things started happening naturally. Again, in this unit, they were like, okay, we don't want to be only informing the people at Anchor, but I want to actually send my message to the whole world. And this was during the time where Twitter could be used and a proper platform, X. So they wanted to, and we as teachers thought about like, okay, this is what our kids want. And these are also our reading skills. Like one of the reading skills is finding the main idea and keywords. So we said, okay, what about if we teach them how to write a tweet? So we, which as an English teacher, I always tell them, give examples, stretch your sentences, write more. And this time throughout this unit, I was like, okay, now you need to write less, but the most important things. So they learned how to write a tweet in certain characters. And then as English teachers, we actually created, the first QR code is for our Twitter account, which hasn't been used for this year, but, and what we, of course, by the way, they're 9-year-olds, so they cannot have their own, but as you can see, their tweets look very professional, right? Just wanted to show you this super cool web tool, Tweetgen. They can create their own tweets, and it actually gives you the same character, and it actually gives you a chance to put your name on. So what we did was the kids created their tweets over here, and then they put it on Padlet, and from the Padlet we started sharing them on the Grade 4 Twitter account. Sorry. So, and again, as I said, when students shorten a message into a tweet, they are practicing the summarizing skills, like the precise language, and both in reading and writing. And it really shifted their thinking. So, as I said, they were like, okay, now I have to write less, but writing less is sometimes harder. And again, always connection with the language. So as I said, they took permission. So they went on a strike in school. They used their recess times to create their signs and everything. We used Greta Thunberg's Fridays for Future website. So again, writing a message was another goal of us. And they were, I don't know if that's going to work. Let me see. Is it working? Yes. Keep that carbon in the soil. I hope you could hear that. So they were just walking around the school with this, and they were very proud of themselves because they were real change makers. So And then what happened was, I wanted to give you this part because I feel like sometimes as teachers, we have these big expectations and we kind of like, because we put a lot in creating and planning, we like everything they have done as an action was amazing. But this student, I think after the unit finished, a month later, during the unit, we had two high schoolers who were climate change activists giving our students a presentation about what they're doing and why they're doing it. So after the whole unit finished, like a month later, one of my students, not my student, one of my colleague students in grade 4 wrote an email to these kids, to these lovely high schoolers. And those lovely high schoolers actually thought about adding us in the email so we were aware, because otherwise we wouldn't know about it. And she said, as you can see, again, practicing email writing skills, saying that I really want to be like you when I'm a bit bigger, because I think it's so cool and so brave of you guys to do a presentation in front of all the fourth graders. So this was so nice. And then what we did with this kid was this, like, because I could see that she wanted to do something. So she started her own Fearless Fridays, kind of getting inspiration from Greta. And for the whole year, and she just did everything. And as a teacher, all I did was in the recess time, help her get this desk out. And again, something that we never expected, and something that some of the quiet kids, you never know when they are going to take action. So sometimes it is really important as a teacher to remind ourselves, wait, every kid is a change maker, but maybe it's not their time yet while you're doing that unit, while you're doing that inquiry. Just a reminder, because this really changed my whole mindset as well. So I kind of thought about giving it, I mean, as I said, I'm a visual person and I like creating visuals about how I see the whole process. The top part was for me for the inquiry, but then I thought, okay, maybe I should actually create a roadmap to agency using the language goals. So as you can see, this is how I look at my lesson planning, and this is how I plan things. Most of the time people think, or I thought, or I used to think, that provocations only happen in the beginning, right? Mostly yes, but it actually is continuing throughout the whole time. And as you can see, when we are doing provocations, learners are exposed to rich and meaningful language, and they notice vocab or tone or ideas in the context. So they're not just hooks, but they're also language-rich entry points, I think. And the awareness, the research part is all about language awareness. Like learners move from consuming a language to noticing things. And they ask questions about words, structures, or the meaning. So they're actually using the language there. And the research is about reading, listening, note-taking skills, right? And the process, as I say, is, or as it is there, it's all about learners gathering information from the learners talking and drafting and revising and rethinking. So the language of English becomes a tool for their thinking and for their collaboration. And this is where the messy language is expected and valued. And this is where you actually learn their misconceptions about the language. And this is where you also help them or scaffold things. And the field trips are, I think, really important as language teachers. Not about only inquiry, but there's such rich experiences and such authentic language experiences for the students, because they experience the language in their real context. They hear, they see. For example, if it's in my context, they are ESL learners, so they don't always hear, but we always create, which I'm going to give a few examples, create booklets or create before or after and during activities for them to do what? For them to engage in, sorry. So it is, because when do you need to use a language? when you really need it, right? And these are the spaces where you can create that authentic need. And the connections and taking action is already purposeful output coming from the process. And as we're going to talk again a little bit more about sustainable development goals, I'm a PYP, I'm in an IB school, so PYP is a framework. And I think SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, are another framework for me as a teacher to get more resources from. So as I gave you the example, when we create learning experiences, we actually also create you can create them as worksheets, but I generally create them as booklets. So this is one about the Changemakers series, Sustainability Talks. We actually asked 3 of our own teachers who were experts in certain. One was expert in fashion and engaged in fashion and sustainability. And the other teacher was expert in food and sustainability and play and sustainability. So we just created, I just gave you a few screenshots of the booklet page. So while they're listening, they have to take the keywords. And in this unit, again, our focus is on summary. And then when they come back to the class, they have to summarize it. They were also using Cornell note-taking. So the booklet pages look like that. And then after or while listening, they have to think about what are some small steps that they can take in their own life or bigger steps. And again, here they're learning how to write a summary. And here is the connection with the action. And again, the last page of the Changemaker talk is which SDGs are they connected to? There are no right, wrong answers. And also, what are some IB learner profiles that they showed during the presentation, just for them to reflect on. This is another example. This is this time how the world works, but it's about how the world works in it, but it's about sustainability. Sustainability makes us responsible towards future generation. As you can see, there's central ideas are pretty similar because we kind of got rid of sharing the planet unit and turned it into this. And again, one of the provocations that we started was this time we closed up the whole cafeteria. And we took the kids there like 10 minutes early, and they saw these posters and they were like, okay, what is happening? And when they get back into their tables, they saw letters from the Fearless Foods. So they had these letters to Great Forest from the Fearless Foods. And as you can see in the lunch hall, they started brainstorming because these foods were telling them what their problems were, that they were being wasted, that they were harming the planet, and they were too much meat. So they started brainstorming about it. And again, later on, this group kind of analyzed the letter for the language. And as you can see, these are all my language goals for this unit, which you can also see in the letter. Another one was who we are unit. By the way, just like one tiny bit of information here. When you're doing provocations like these, this really made some of the students, and they, by the way, at the end they ate their lunch, of course. But when we had like, unfortunately, a few crying kids, and we were like, don't worry, just whispering, don't worry, you're gonna eat it. All you have to do is find the right way to convince them. Again, persuasive language, right? Brainstorming. So this is another example of who we are unit. Our informed choices affect us, and we like putting the anchors, like our school staff, but at the same time parents into learning experience. So before this unit starts, we send an email to the parents saying that we're going to be starting our new unit and we're going to be focusing on growth mindset, mental health, and coping strategies. Can you please, if you want, again, totally if they want, write or record a video about a mistake that you have made? And we send them a Padlet. Our students are 9-year-olds, by the way, 8, 9, 10. Sally. So when they are, so we just send them, and we also get some videos or things. This part is interesting to see how some teachers are risk takers to talk about their mistakes, because it is not easy to talk about your mistakes and what you learn from them as an adult, right? That is also an uncomfortable situation. So this is a part where we want kids to see adults make mistakes. We just do not show them to you. So we're just very professional at hiding them. This unit is the beginning, we do this unit in the beginning because it actually creates the whole mindset for the whole year. And I cannot tell you, again, these are our grammar topics. We're teaching them past tense, when, while, transition words, conjunctions, listening skills, because they're listening from the videos and they're actually using note-taking strategies. And the vocab is focused on emotions. So they're recording their thinking based on the visible thinking routine. And this is an amazing, very interesting perspective that the kids even automatically create bonds with you, because they're like, okay, you are very open to share your mistakes with me. And then it becomes a very transparent relationship. So as you can see, what we did at the end was, or the whole main idea is, this is a personal narrative unit. So after listening to and reading other people's, their parents or their friends' parents or their teachers' mistakes, they actually start thinking about a time that they had a challenge. I'm gonna show the next slide. So this is, as you can see, one of my students' paragraph. So they learn how to write in multiple paragraphs, like the beginning, middle, and ending. And they also learn transition words and past tense. So they write their own paragraph. They write their own paragraphs and explain their mistakes and what they have learned from them. And one year we also kind of added the music teachers, and with the kind of like a interdisciplinary project where they also wrote songs for each paragraph just to make connections. And they also created, as you can see, this was My Harmful Disaster, like a 3D object that they created to represent their mistake. And after a while, because we've been doing this unit for the past 4-5 years, as each year we kind of expanded and improve it, we turned their mistakes into a magazine. So this is great for who we are. As you can see, this is a 24-25 example. So students used AI to create visuals for their mistakes. And then we actually turned it into a booklet, pass it on to the school, and some of the grades are already using it as their. Shall I pause, Cindy? Go ahead. Okay. If you want to ask anything, or I can actually pause. In a minute, I will pause, by the way. So this really, again, very close connection with an action that, and also overall what they have learned. This is their action. And one group, what they wanted to do was turn this into a real book and sell it and donate the money to a charity that they wanted. So this came from the kids, but we couldn't make it that year, and hopefully we're still in the process of making it this year. So as I said, what we did like 6-7 years ago, I became, I'm sure many people are familiar with Global Schools program. If not, please have a look at it. I became a global school advocate, and then we started actually implementing our implementing SDGs into our units. So as you can see, this is just an example of their planning and how it is very useful. Such a small tip, but it changed our whole curriculum perspective. We kind of matched the SDGs with our units and our units and language goals, you can see. And also in our unit planning, we just added SDG connection. And now in our primary school, everyone has to make an SDG connection, either in the beginning as teachers, or most of the time, I actually ask my students which connections that they have made. And Changemaker Classroom is, I think, where learners move from can I to watch me, right? And it's feels that it's their space to lead. So agency is really important, and agency starts sometimes physically. These are a few screenshots of my classes. over the years, when they come into class, they know that they're a change maker in training. So they know that they are going to make the whole mission is becoming a change maker. So I think that is really important. One thing that, again, we have been using is, maybe you know, the UN's climate action superheroes. So climate action super, we kind of turned them into a homework series. And as you can see, some examples, we actually, this is a super cool, if you write climate action superhero, it actually has 10 climate action missions that you can do, and it encourages you to take action. What we did was we kind of embedded language skills into it. So the homework series that we created is, it's always the vocab, the writing, which is also taken from the Climate Action Superhero website, and differentiated according to our learners. And then there's a part that they need to take action. And as you can see, you can create a board, or you can give, if you're using an LMS, they can actually share their actions there. This also becomes like a very natural action, like language blended action taking. And the thing is, this year I turned these logos into stickers. So each time they take action, they take a sticker. And that's the part where they actually really love it. Another one is reading. I think having a very diverse library in your class is very important. Being intentional about including stories and voices that reflect the rich diversity of the world actually makes them automatically become change makers as well. Because I think book choices aren't just about literacy, it's about representation, inspiration, and empowerment. So I have started changing my library into my class library and our school library as well. As you can see, this is an example of our attempts to create a SDG library in our school. Oops, again, why can't I move? So when the kids actually feel empowered, they are more risk takers. And that's how they can co-create projects, and that's how they can shape the classroom environment as change makers. I have this very unpopular idea around the around the language teachers. Let's see if we're gonna guess. I hate reading logs because I think reading logs kill the joy of reading. But I do believe in the power of reading. So I do not make my students write how many minutes that they have read or signed by someone else, but I have different ways of recording them. However, I do sometimes believe that short, because gamification is really important, especially for not very enthusiastic readers. What we did was we actually created a readathon, like a Grade 4 sponsored readathon through the library week. Grade 4 is taking action by reading. So we send an email to the parents saying, if you want to sponsor your kid, we just gave all the details, you can. And by the end of this 2-week time, they actually really put, like they wrote what they have written, how many minutes that they have written, and their parents have paid them, but they just didn't pay them for nothing. They actually paid them so that they could donate to any charities that they wanted. This is the board that we have created. So this was the How We Express Ourselves unit. It was about storytelling and story writing. So as you can see, many kids donating what they have earned into different charities. This is also another UN website. If you want to find more related books about SDGs, they have such a great library there. And this is another very short what's a resource that I've found and I've been using is UpSchool. Have a look at it, please. As language learners, as inquiry teachers, you would find so many free resources. By the way, I mean, I don't know anyone from UpSchool. I have been using it as an English teacher, so maybe having a look at it would really be useful for students from grade 1 to 12, by the way. I also believe that a change maker classroom is where students think with empathy, purpose, and possibility. I have students who actually come into the recess times and have recess club times, like, because our class is a real hub for real world thinking. When they cannot finish it, they still stay in class to continue with whatever they want to take action. And the language that they use is English. So they are becoming critical thinkers and problem solvers. And this is another student this year who has been very passionate about taking action, but at the same time, who was very good at computing skills. So what this lovely kid Kerem did was, after having one of the sustainability talks, he connected his coding skills with the what fashion, sustainability for fashion action. So he spent his time coding a prototype, and he started having a food swap. So this was actually a really nice, very personal connection and a very personal action. But sometimes you take action as a whole class, and it is really important, as I said, to give kids a time and chance to create and take action on their own time. So having an action board in your class is really important, I think, because it really encourages them. As you can see, these are not about my units. So they're all about how they want to take action, because once they become a change maker, that's what we always say. Once you're a change maker, then you cannot unstop yourself. You have to, you start seeing the problems, and you want to actually see them as like, what can I do? How can I change this? This discrimination notice board, for example, was created by one of my students, that she noticed that there was bullying going on, and she wanted to do that. And this year, like I've been doing this for the past 2 years, I created the Sustainable Development Goals calendar for myself. This is the QR code. It's totally free and open, and it's editable version in Canva. So I just added SDG related days, and we're using it. And some of the kids just automatically look at the calendar and say, this is the World Transportation Day coming up. Can I do this, or can we do that? And they come up with activities. So it actually, not activities, but more action. So it actually makes them automatically start taking action. And one small thing before I leave space for question and answering is a change maker classroom is, again, where students lead, where they plan, where they reflect, right? And this should be supported by the shared spaces. And I feel like if they don't feel like that is their space, it is harder to take or to get them to the action part. So having learning walls in my class really helped that, because it's their space, and whenever they want to add something, or whenever they have an idea, or whenever they want to do something, as you can see, this is the beginning of my unit, they actually add their own connections or their own actions. So this is their board, this is their learning. I, of course, add the provocations or small things, and so that they can reflect on it, because I want to create a very intentional board as well. But this is what they feel that they're empowered. So these are, just a few examples of some of them. I'm going to skip this PYPX part, but when I'm sharing the slides, I will, because PYPX is very related to IB. If I had time, I would, but it's basically all about kids taking action on their own choice problems. And one thing that I want, and it's totally inquiry and IB based, by the way, or you can think of it as a Genius Hour project too. So, but how we connected this one was mostly talking about like turning this year like a TEDx talk. They actually, last year, sorry, they made their PYPX talk. And as you can see, they have learned again and practiced and recycled their persuasive language skills. So these are a few examples of my students taken action on gender equality and what they have come up with. This is a really funny part. My gender equality group was like, how can we, because they're so used to going into field trips and having that authentic learning experience, they were like, but we want to go to a field trip, but how can we? One of the students came up with this idea. What I observe is I see a lot of gender inequality in toy stores or clothing stores. So do you know what we did? We actually arranged a field trip to the shopping mall, and this was their idea. And as a teacher, I would never ever would have come up with this idea in 100 years. So exposing them into these learning experiences actually make them become change makers themselves, and they start demanding those experiences from you as a teacher, and they help you to create those experiences. So another group of pollution that they started going on, I had this pollution group, and again giving them agency and choice, because when you think about pollution, it's climate change, right? Yes, one of my two of my students said, but what about space? So this group started um, um, researching about space debris. And they were like, okay, but how can we take action on a space debris? So they created this sound cloud. They wrote songs about space debris. And if you scan this QR code, you will actually see around 8, 9 songs that they made about space debris, and kind of informing people on what's coming up, and creating games. So it's all about them taking action. And just before I finish, of course, I just want to kind of not avoid the elephant in the room, right? As language learners, amazing. Yes, we take action, we do that, we do that, this. But what are the stretches and risks when language learning is driven by student agency rather than teacher control? Because that is also something that, as a teacher, sometimes hard to give up on, or sometimes there, I mean, I think it's a process for me, but you have your curriculum, you have your objectives, you have this, you have that. How can you actually do all of them, right? Please feel free to write down, what do you think some of the risks and stretches of language learning driven by student agency on the chat. Just for the timing, I'm gonna show it of some of the things that I have thought and I have gathered from my colleagues as well, is about like uneven language output, or less explicit grammar coverage, or people say that sometimes confident students dominate the whole what's the whole the whole sorry the whole conversation, or agencies sometimes benefit some learners but not all, or language growth is harder, or it is sometimes hard because you don't have the whole product. These are a few things like the stretches and risks, and then kind of designed responses for me, just like how to do them. But I think the biggest one is the mindset shift. I don't see my teacher, I don't see myself as a language teacher who teaches past simple, but I see myself as a facilitator who helps students take an action and be there for them to help with the language. So I feel like every child is a change maker. And if they haven't taken action so far, believe me, they just haven't discovered their passion yet, or this is not the right time for them yet. So as teachers, we just need to pause a little bit and give them that space, because it doesn't happen under what we do. And yes, that is all I have. If you have any questions, I'm so sorry. It was very me towards you, and I was planning to pause at sometimes, but totally didn't, just looking at the time. If you have any questions, I would love to thinker with you.
If you do need to leave,
I
Julia
don't.
has.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You didn't
I just
mean
wanted
me,
to
right?
make sure everyone could go if they wanted. So if you do need to rush off, Julia has put the certificate link in the chat. Julia, could you pin that for me? And then, like always, you can follow that link to get your certificate. But if you want to stay and ask questions, please do, as long as Berna has time. Sally asked, how old are your students?
They're 9, 8, 9, 10.
And Someone asked if you can share these slides. Is it possible to share these slides?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've
Awesome.
already put the, I'll share it with you, Sam. And when you're
Yeah.
sharing the YouTube links, I guess, you can send it.
Awesome. That would be perfect. Thank you. Just lots of nice comments. Love your ideas. You have articulate, clear, and inviting way of talking. This is so useful. Ian said, I wonder which phase in IB that you teach and your students' CFR proficiency level.
The thing is, I mean, we don't just go with CFR. Our curriculum is kind of a combination of different language frameworks. But when you think about it in terms of CFR, we're already embedding them starting from grade 1. And we have our own curriculum continuum from grade 1 to 4, because in Turkey, primary school is from grade 1 to 4. So you can actually see all the CFR language goals there as well.
Awesome. Someone said, when we give leadership to students during the process, we can see that some step forward more easily because they are ready and therefore become more active than others. Yeah. How can we maintain balance in the classroom so that every student's time and leadership journey can unfold with equal opportunities?
I totally agree with you, Esra. That is actually a huge thing. I'm going to go back to here just to also show you that, because that is one thing that I always have in mind as well. But one thing is giving students, I think giving students having group works is really important. And as a teacher, that's where you can intervene, because you're giving already agency in what they are choosing. So as a teacher, maybe you can intervene in the groups. Or in our case, I know Esra is a preschool teacher and they don't give homework. But in our case, we actually do have targeted, as I said, for example, superhero climate actions. So like targeted ways that the students can take action as well. So I think, I mean, just on top of my head, grouping, and in the grouping, sometimes teacher intervention and making sure that you actually group up kids or pair up kids based on who can help or who can shine, or who can not shine, but who can actually who can encourage each other to be more upfront. And also making sure that, for example, what I do is in my class, every student, we have a list in the beginning. We are just like a list of lines, and they're always writing who they have paired up with. You know, those clockwise pairs, like they have to make sure that in this term they have to work with at least 4 different people, so that that kind of grouping does help them to not dominate, but to work as a group. I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer, but just on top of my head.
Awesome. Lots of thank yous, lots of nice comments. Does anyone else have any questions? I know that was a fantastic session. I feel very inspired, so I'm sure everyone else feels very energized. Don't forget to grab a certificate while you can. They're in the chat, so just find the link and then you can get yourself a certificate for this session.
I also added the Menti in case if you guys want to do it later on.
Awesome.
As you can see, I am a teacher who doesn't give up very easily.
Any other questions? Okay. I guess that comes to a natural finish then. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Berna. That was an incredible session.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I forgot to say, everyone, that Emily is doing a sketch note for this session. So hopefully in a few days you can see a little kind of be reminded of this workshop and everything that you learned. Awesome. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. See you at the final session in about an hour.
Bye-bye.
Bye.